I know you know a lot about AI, right? And you know how dangerous it is potentially to humanity and what opportunities it also, offers. But it could kill us all. I mean, Elon said first it's going to steal our job, then it's going to kill us, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably not hyperbole. It actually, if it follows the laws of biological evolution, which are just the laws of mathematics, that's probably a good endpoint for it. A potential endpoint. So we need it's going to happen, but we need to make sure it's regulated and it's regulated properly for safety in every country, and that includes Russia and China and Iran. Right now, we should be putting all the weapons of war aside and sitting down with those guys and say, how are we doing? How are we going to do this? There's much more important things to do. This stuff is going to kill us if we don't figure out how to regulate it. And leadership needs to look down the road at what is the real risk here. And the real risk is that AI will enslave us for one thing, and and then destroy us and do all this other stuff. And how about biological weapons? We're now all working on these biological weapons, and we're doing biological weapons from Ebola and dengue fever and all of these other bad things, and we're making ethnic bioweapons, bioweapons that can only kill Russians, bioweapons that the Chinese are making that can kill people who don't have Chinese genes. So all of this is now within reach. We're actively doing it. And we need to stop it. And we can easily, a biological weapons treaty is the easiest thing in the world to do. We can verify it, we can enforce it, and everybody wants to agree to it. Only insane people do not want to continue this kind of research. There's no reason to do it. So there are these existential threats to all of humanity now out there, like AI and biological weapons. We need to stop fighting each other. Start competing on economic playing fields instead of military playing fields, which will be good for all of humanity. And that we need to sit down with each other and negotiate reasonable treaties on how we regulate AI and biological weapons. And nobody's talking about this in this political race right now. Nobody's talking about it in the government. They get fixated on these little wars and these comic book depictions of good versus evil, and we all go hoorah and go off and give them the weapons and enrich the military industrial complex. But we're on the road to perdition if we don't end this.
And some of this requires to have this kind of phone that connects Khrushchev and John F. Kennedy, that cuts through all the bureaucracy, to have this communication between heads of state and, in the case of AI, perhaps heads of tech companies, where you can just pick up the phone and have a conversation.
Yes.
Because a lot of the existential threats of artificial intelligence, perhaps even bioweapons, is unintentional. It's not even strategic, intentional effects. So you have to be transparent and honest about, especially with AI, that people might not know what's the worst that's going to happen once you release it out into the wild. And you have to have an honest kind of communication about how to do it, so that companies are not terrified of regulation, overreach of regulation, and then government is not terrified of tech companies of manipulating them in some direct or indirect ways. So like there's a trust that builds versus a distrust. That seems to, so basically that old phone where Khrushchev can call John F. Kennedy is needed.
Yeah, and I don't think listen, I don't understand AI. Okay, I do know. I can see from all this technology how it's this kind of turnkey totalitarianism that once you put these systems in place, they can be misused to enslave people, and they can be misused in wars, and to subjugate, to kill, to do all of these bad things. And I don't think there's anybody on Capitol Hill who understands this. We need to bring in the tech community and say, tell us what these regulations need to look like, so that there can be freedom to innovate, so that we can milk AI for all of the good things, but not fall into these traps that are gonna, that are these existential threats that pose existential threats to humanity.
It seems like John F. Kennedy is a singular figure in that he was able to have the humility to reach out to Khrushchev, and also the strength and integrity to resist the what did you call them, the salad brass and institutions like the CIA. So that makes it particularly tragic that he was killed.